Holly's getting a massage, and then she gets massaged a little too hard, and she accidentally splashes hot chocolate on herself, which she has with her.
Where did the hot chocolate come from?
She has it. She's drinking it. She
While
accidentally
she's
spills it directly on her boobs, which is so embarrassing. But don't worry.
This is giving Seduced by the Pumpkin Spice Latte.
A little bit.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi. Welcome to Say Smut, a literary podcast for readers and non-readers.
That is Sarah, and she loves books.
And that's Hope. She loves talking to me about books.
And oh boy, is it a great day for me, Hope, because I'll be talking a lot about a book that I read. Oops, I did it again.
Well, as if you are new here, for some odd reason you haven't shown up before. First of all, where have you been? And second of all, typically I tell the stories to Hope.
But now it's a switcheroo.
Now we do this every once in a blue moon where she will read a book and I have to do research that I'm not quite sure is related to the topic. And before we get into it, can I ask you what you've been up to lately?
Yes. What have I been up to lately? Working. I just finished my move. In the sense that we are officially out of one home and into the next home, not in the sense of everything is unpacked, because it super isn't. And that's pretty much what I've got going on. Other than that, my life is 100% Olympics 100% of the time. I'm never not watching the Olympics. And
as it should be.
That's it. That's it for me. What about you?
I have been doing two things in Jurassic succession of one another, or I guess alongside one another. I have been listening to a dark romance series while doing Ancestry.com research.
Ooh.
So quite the pairing. Here's what happened. I'm, as you know, if you have been listening, I'm super susceptible to TikTok teases to books. Like, you know, they put like some kind of generic Pinterest photo and then have text on the screen and have some music that's very mood setting. And then the text on the screen is telling a part of the book that like is a trope or it's a quote. And I'm like, sold, let me just buy that book. And well, I've recently fallen into the hole of people who put the audiobook, portions of the audiobook on TikTok. So you listen to a portion of the book. And I'm like, okay. So I got
fine then.
Yeah, well, fine.
Sign me up.
Here's my credit card. Let me just get 12 of these. I need to get the name of this series quick, but essentially, so I got hooked on the fourth or fifth book in the series. So I was like, well, I'll just start at book number 1.
Sure.
I don't know why I didn't process that it might be a dark romance, because if you looked at the cover, first of all, it's a hot model in black and white in a very menacing look. And then the discreet, quote unquote, discreet cover is black and white with red, and it looks very spooky. It's got like skull and cross-eyed skull things. You know what I mean? Skulls with like crosses over the eyes.
Oh, sure.
You know, I don't think I'm crazy for how I'm explaining.
I can visualize it. You just said it as if it was like a very well-known image, and I guess in my head it wasn't.
Skull and crossbones is, I think, what I meant.
Crossbones is
cross eyes.
where there's two. Well, okay, but let's make sure what we're talking about. A skull and crossbones is like two probably arm bones that are crossed behind the skull that's in front of it.
Okay, so I don't even think that's close enough for me to explain what I'm actually explaining. The whole thing is that it's this university, and there was a series of books that is actually the parents. So this series is the second generation all falling in love with each other at a university. Two universities that are next door to each other. Anyway, and then there's a secret society in them, and they are kind of like gangsters. And anyway, all of them have like anti-personality or antisocial personality disorder, and like, so you have like the really dark guys who go after the super soft girls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so I started at trigger warning for coercion in sexual contact for the next probably 60 seconds. So book 1, I turn on the audiobook and I'm playing my little Stardew Valley, just working on my farm, listening to my audiobook. Chapter 1, she's out in the middle of the woods on a cliff, and this guy comes up behind her and she falls, and he grabs her by the arm, and he's like, well, I could like let you drop, or I could like pull you up. But if I pull you up, you owe me a favor. And she was like, anything. And then he pulls her up. Second chapter, that favor is oral sex, and he will not let her out of that arrangement. Aww. So I kept on thinking, is this our bad guy? And then I was like, oh, no. I didn't realize that this is a dark romance. Oh, okay.
We're into it. I see.
No, I mean, here's the thing. Like, I haven't done a dark romance in a long while. And so it was just startling to me because I don't know what I thought I was getting myself into. But now I'm on book. I read 3 of the books this weekend. Listened to 3 of the books this weekend. I am now on book 4.
Look,
I'm powering through, but I have to say it is there's a lot. Yeah, it's dark. It's dark is what I'll tell you. Trigger warning for the next 30 seconds. Essentially, like, there is knife play, gunplay, Russian roulette. Definitely consensual, non-consensual. Breeding kink for sure. Yeah, no, it's wild. So then I'm doing all that, and imagine me sitting at my desk, also looking up my ancestors, like,
who are so proud of you,
who are so proud of me at this moment. No, but
taking you to literature.
No, look, I am a woman of the arts. What can I say? So but on a more serious note, I have to say I've been listening to, or I've read a couple of really, really great books that I want to give quick shout outs to. Rebecca Ross is the author of Divine Rivals, which is a duology that got really, really popular this year. She has a couple of books she's done in the past. One of them is Dreams Lie Beneath. It's a standalone fantasy, but essentially it's these magicians who act like wardens to their town, because every new moon, one of the citizens of the town's nightmares manifests in real life. So they have to fight the nightmare once a month. So if you get a nightmare, you have to report it to the warden, so he knows what he might have to battle, right? Anyway, enemies to lovers. She goes undercover to ruin his life, falls in love with him. Lots of angst.
Sarah, if your nightmare manifested in real life, what would it be?
That is a great question.
Because I understand that it could be something like a big spooky monster that is in your nightmare, but if your nightmare is something like being naked in front of a crowd of people and that manifests, that's just like a whole different kind of thing to be dealing with.
No, it is. So I definitely would be pregnant from a former relationship. Wow. That's been a regular nightmare I have, is that I find out I'm pregnant after we break up. And then, gosh, what else? Definitely like living in a paranormal house is also one of my nightmares. So what about you? What is your nightmare? What would I have to fight for you if I was your warden?
Working in retail.
Oh my God. Accurate though. I mean, you're not far off.
My actual like consistent stress dream is always about being in usually high school, having an A-B schedule, not knowing what classes are what day, and then having finals, but I never showed up for any of my classes.
That's fair.
And I don't really know how that manifested a way that we would battle in the first place.
No, but so for context though, the first nightmare that you're introduced to as the reader, it's a child's nightmare of drowning. So the whole town starts flooding, and there's like a key to every dream that either you can battle the dream or you find the key and it's kind of like pulling a plug and it stops it. So for context, they do kind of address that not every nightmare is a monster, right? But a couple other shout outs. I went down a Christina Lauren hole where I read The Paradise Problem and The Honeymooners, because they were like little rom-coms for the summer. Very big fan. Very, very big fan. So anyway, those are my recs. Anything you want to recommend?
What I'm most excited to recommend is the book that we're about to talk about. Do you want to jump into it?
Yeah. Is this your way of telling me to shut the fuck up?
No, I would never say that.
No, I would never say that to you. Well, I'm a yapper. I can't help it. Yapping. I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay, well, let's do it. Today I will be covering a book that I discovered all by myself and read all by myself without Sarah's recommendation or permission. So, joke's on her. I am thrilled to tell you about your next favorite book, if you haven't read it already, Monster Pucker, a hockey monster romance by Clio Evans and Ashley Bennett. Yay!
Wow, I haven't even heard of this one. This is fun.
Yay! I'm so proud of me, and you should be too.
Yes.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah. So, first, content warnings. I'm thrilled to tell you that this book came with one, so I didn't have to like rack my brain and try and think of them all myself. Buckle up because this book contains a lot, including praise and degradation, DVP, DP, spanking, light dumps.
Wait, what's DVP and DP? Can you explain that?
I believe that's double vaginal penetration and double penetration.
Okay. Just want to make sure
I think
we're clear.
I might be wrong. Light dom sub dynamics, voyeurism, size difference, blackmail, snowballing, excessive fluids, breeding kink, a personal say smut favorite, flavored cum, a little bit of physical harm, and some photos being taken without consent, neither of which are done by love interests, and nodding, and honestly more, but we'll get to that later.
I appreciate you identifying. I think that's important because it's like we're not going to, this isn't a dark romance that we're going to say, yeah, non-consensual photos are taken by the love interest. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think it's important to identify that is not what we are highlighting.
No, it is a part of the plot, and the significance of the plot, not unimportant, not gigantic either.
Okay, heard.
That's what I'll say.
Yes, Jeff.
Yes. So on Storygraph, I believe the rating for this book was a 3.8, but I had a really hard time finding it. It was not for some reason in an obvious place, although to be fair, I think that's just because I don't use Storygraph, so I don't know where I'm looking. On Goodreads, though, I can tell you quite confidently that it had a 3.94.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yes. And then a little bit about our authors. We have two. Versus Clio Evans, and according to the bio included in the book, Clio is a lover of all things that go bump in the night, fancy peens, coffee, and chocolate, which
say less.
Yeah.
Say less.
Of course. She has many book series, including the Creature Cafe series, Warts and Claws Incorporated series, Freaks of Nature duet, and the Three Fates Mafia series. So Cleo's written every book. This bio made me laugh a lot. That's all. That's all I have to say about it.
I love it.
This bio just made me laugh.
I was looking up the name because I wanted to make sure it's somebody I haven't also written down for a different one I wanted to do. So, but I think there's a series, like there's kind of a subgenre of like cozy monster romances almost that like I think I've seen their names in there. So anyway, yes, sorry for the pause.
True. Don't even worry about it.
Our other author.
Our second author is Ashley Bennett, and Ashley writes spicy, sweet monster romances according to her bio. So she has written, and you may be familiar with some of these, the Leviathan Fitness series, which includes muscles and monsters, tentacles and triathlons, mantras and minotaurs, and griffins and gains. And Ashley's books typically include fluffy vibes and all the feels. And we can thank them both for combining their incredible talents for this book. And I'm so excited to break it down. Are you ready?
I think I'm ready. Yeah. And little plug here. We do have a, if anybody wants one, DM us, but we do have little hockey bookmarks that we are giving out. So, and I have plenty of them. So if anybody wants one, it says my, in parentheses, fictional boyfriend plays hockey. So it would be inappropriate. I feel I haven't read the book, but I feel like it would be appropriate for this. Would it not?
It would be incredibly appropriate. And I'm excited to explain to you all the ways in which it would be.
Thank you.
You are welcome. We open on our main character, who is Holly, and she finds herself in a little bit of a sticky situation because you see she has trapped herself inside a professional hockey player's locker.
As many people do. Mm-hmm. I mean, happens on the reg for me.
Yes. Sometimes you're having just the most Monday, and you accidentally get stuck in a hockey player's locker. Before we proceed as to why Holly's in a hockey player's locker, Sarah, can you please share with us your research?
Yes, you asked me to research the NHL, where it began, core teams that were at the beginning. But before, first of all, I'll say my sources, which is the NHL website, obviously our friends Wikipedia, Hockey Hall of Fame, and the hockey guy on YouTube who did a wonderful video about the origins, which is so funny. So before, first of all, puck it off. So that was my pun that I was going to give you for my research, but I don't think I'm as good as puns as you are. So I'm so sorry to our listeners. If you want one of Hope's classic research puns, go to another episode first, and then come back and like moan when you hear my puns.
Look, I am confident that your research is about to puck us all up in a very positive way.
So before we get started about the NHL, we have to talk about the National Hockey Association of Canada Limited. It was founded in 1909 and very, very short-lived. It was founded by a guy named Ambrose O'Brien, and the association was actually the first to introduce six-person hockey after eliminating the rover position. You act as if I may know about the rover position. I don't. I wasn't alive during 1908 before this became a thing. So I will be moving on by telling you that the association, I know nothing. The association struggled with competing against like the Pacific Coast Hockey Association, which was like in America. And so essentially what happened was this association lived from 1909 to 1917. And you're like, Sarah, that's such a short amount of time. And I would say, yes, it is, because essentially there was a posse of people who owned all of these major players in Canada. And they were like, hey, we really hate this one MFer. And essentially they just like stopped responding to the group chat and started a new group chat without him in it. Like that's the vibe that happened because, so the association struggled because during World War I, a bunch of players were being drafted and like had to go overseas and yada, yada. And also there was a ton of disagreement between the owners. And like I said, the hockey guy on YouTube did a wonderful 20-minute video detailing everything. And I was going to write it all down, but it seemed really, really excessive and in the weeds to try and explain it all. But essentially this guy named Eddie Livingstone, he was just a problem child from the beginning. He owned one of the leagues in Canada. Somebody in a book had said about him, like he was happiest when he was fighting, essentially. Like he was just, and I hate using the word confrontational because I'm a confrontational person, but I don't think that's a bad thing all the time. I think it's just like a thing that like confrontation can be good and positive, but people mean it in an aggressive, bad way most of the time, which is really sad. But anyway, he was bad confrontation, like just always wanted to fight, and kind of like butt heads with every single person. And so they were like, you know what, that's fine, you can have the association because we're gonna get together at this random hotel and actually start the National Hockey League of Canada. So you can have the association. Yeah, you can have the association all to yourself, Eddie. But then no one wanted to play in Eddie's sandbox, so the sandbox became obsolete. Right. Yeah. Okay. So then they started the National Hockey League, which developed within the same year of 1917 when they had dissolved the other one. Okay. So it opened in 1917 in Montreal. And again, like I said, kind of like ending one group chat to start a new group chat. And everyone's like, this is awesome. Okay. So the Montreal Canadiens, Montreal Wanderers, Ottawa Senators, and Ottawa.
Got you. I got you, girl.
Everybody just skip over that part. Ottawa Senators and Quebec Bulldogs attended the founding meeting of this. So these were the core members of the very beginning. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, if the National Hockey League started in Canada, how do we have it in the United States today? Well, the NHL explained that it expanded in 1925 with the addition of the Boston Bruins. And then it would quickly be followed by the Chicago Blackhawks, Detroit Cougars, later the Red Wings. And the New York Rangers. So they kind of were like, hey, we're all kind of doing the same thing. Let's all just compete against each other. Okay.
Makes
and
sense.
then for a while, they were what was called the original six era, which was the Bruins, the Blackhawks, the Red Wings, the Montreal Canadiens, New York Rangers, Toronto Maple Leafs. And that era, which people kind of consider the golden era of hockey, was 1942 to 1967. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So those were like the core people, like
right.
Ampin, think like a little bit miracle-y, you know.
Sure. Yeah. Really legendary hockey happening.
Yeah. So now in today's time, we have 32 teams, and the league has gone across seas to play regular season games like in the Czech Republic, Finland, Germany, Great Britain, Japan, Sweden. And they have what you probably know is the Stanley Cup. Yes. So I'll give you just a little brief history about that. Stanley Cup actually goes back further than the NHL and the association. The Stanley Cup, notably, is the oldest trophy competed for by professional athletes in North America. And it was donated in 1892 by Sir Frederick Arthur Stanley, Lord Stanley of Preston, and the son of the Earl of Derby. It was originally purchased for 10 guineas, which is $50 in today's time. In today's money, like, yeah. And it was to be presented to, quote, the Championship Hockey Club of the Dominion of Canada. The first ever team to be awarded it was the Montreal Amateur Athletic Association in 1893.
Well done.
Would you like a little of book talk drama before we go back to your story?
Always. I always want it.
One of the newer clubs, the Seattle Krakens. Okay. They are on TikTok, and a lot of people followed them and got really amped because they kind of leaned into this hockey book romance genre that's been popping off in the last couple of years, especially since COVID. Okay. So they started leaning into this, and they would get these hockey romance books and give them to some of their athletes to read out loud, or like read out loud, or read and then like react to, because they were spicy, right?
That's so funny. Yeah.
They would post thirst traps, kind of like, I mean, pretty tame thirst. It wasn't like inappropriate thirst traps, but like some thirst traps about their athletes. And then they started like giving tickets to this one influencer has been problematic for numerous reasons. But this influencer, they're like, okay, hey, come to one of our games. We'll give you a jersey. We'll give you nice seats. We'll let you meet. So like she goes out and does all the things, right? She's promoting. And this is from a promotional marketing standpoint, this is like a really good play on their part, right? I mean, but for a while, one of the athletes who's very well known on this team, he's married. And I
don't like that you have to mention that.
So he's married, and there was a bunch of thirst traps posted about him, which at the beginning, the wife was also on social media kind of being like, haha, this is funny. Yes, my husband's gorgeous. Like, yes, I'm very proud to have a hot husband. Yes, he works hard in his job. Like, she was kind of going along with it. But then the posts got more and more like, I don't want to even say raunchy. Like it got like really disrespectful, and the comment sections got to be like kind of like harassing and like threatening, and like took it to another place. Because it's one thing to say like, oh, that's a good looking, player, right? But it's another thing to say explicit things about that person. So then finally she posts something, and the wife posts something and says, hey, like, please stop. Like, we're going to like kind of withdraw from this spotlight. Like, we don't really want to be involved with this anymore. Like, it's gone too far. You've disrespected us as a couple, us as a marriage. This is his job. Like, to some degree, it's got to stop. Right. And then the Seattle Krakens like cracked down, because they like take down all of their book talkish content. They stopped engaging. They like cut ties with that one influencer, which by the way was kind of spurring a lot of the stuff going on. Yeah. And so they cut ties with her, and then she posts being like, how could they like pull out from all of these things? Like, I don't understand. They used my fan base and blah, blah, blah. So I think it's one of those stories of every side was wrong, right? Like the Seattle Kraken should have never bought that far into this. They definitely used their players on a level that was inappropriate. The creator definitely should not have been posting all the stuff she was and encouraging some of the activity she was. And I just feel bad for the husband and wife, because I think it's one of those things where anything that goes viral or anything that goes on the internet, you kind of ride the wave and you hope that it's going to be a good, positive experience, but it can turn bad really fast.
Yeah.
And I think they watched that happen firsthand. But I think the wife handled it really well at the beginning, because she was like, yeah, no, I think my husband's hot too. Like, yes, everybody, look and enjoy, please. But like, but then it hits a point where you're being really disrespectful, and that's a human being on the other line, right?
Yeah.
So anytime I think about hockey romances and stuff, I always think about this story that happened probably within the last year-ish. But yeah, it was quite the drama, and people like did a lot of analyses on like how Book Talk interacts with people, how marketing should engage with how they use their employees and stuff. So anyway, I think it's an interesting story.
Right. Well, I hope that we can replace that sad story in your memory with this much more fun story about our friend Holly, who, as I mentioned, is
in a
trapped
locker.
inside the locker in a locker room of a hockey, an arena, I guess, an ice rink. Let's meet our main character. So,
please.
Holly is a sports journalist. Obviously.
Of course she is.
Doing the very journalistic thing to do, which is break into a place you're not supposed to be and try and report, ? She is here because she is covering an NMHL game, which is between the Michigan Growlers and the Colorado Claws. And I know that sounds unfamiliar, especially after we've heard all of Sarah's incredible research. And that's because we're not talking about the National Hockey League. We're talking about the National Monster Hockey League, which I imagine is structured very similarly, but with the inclusion of monsters.
Yeah, of course. They had a big ousting too, I heard.
Yeah, it's so true.
It's so traumatic.
So, yeah, we all understand fundamentally the history of the NMHL, thanks exclusively to Sarah's research.
Yeah.
We did it. Anyway, so this is Holly's beat. She's a sports journalist. She's here to cover the NMHL. She is hoping to uncover a hard-hitting story, 1, because she's a bad bitch journalist, obviously, and 2, because her ex-fiance, Mike, who has no last name, is also a sports journalist and is trying to outdo her. So she's like, fuck ex-fiance Mike. I must be a better sports journalist than him. Unfortunately, as she was going into this locker room, it's the Michigan Growlers locker room, she sees a security guard and like panics and is like, I gotta hide, and she jumps into a locker and it accidentally locks, and also the locker smells so bad.
Of course it does. Well, I don't know what else you'd expect.
It's hockey. And another note, Holly is a self-described big girl, which we love.
Oh, love that.
And don't worry, because monsters are big, and so their lockers are also big. And so Holly says that she's not really feeling claustrophobic, and instead is feeling more, quote, like a doll in a box, which is a very fun way to, like, a positive spin on your complex situation.
Barbie.
Okay, Barbie. This Barbie's a journalist.
This Barbie's
a journalist who's accidentally locked herself in a hockey locker room locker.
I can't imagine how this gets her into further trouble.
Yes, I know what you're thinking. Hope, isn't it ethically reprehensible to hide in a locker room and sneak information for your story, and also to do all of this to be better than your ex? And like, yeah,
but that doesn't matter. We all read Don Juan Velociraptor, and if you haven't, go back to that episode, please. But yeah.
Don't worry about it. It's probably fine. So Holly is stuck in this locker and she's starting to doom spiral a little bit. She's like, this was a mistake. I should not have come in here. I have no idea how I'm going to get out of this locker without revealing where I am. If I reveal where I am, I'm obviously going to get in trouble. And she's just like really kind of starting to stress out. And all of a sudden she hears a little moan in the locker room.
Oh, is somebody masturbating?
Followed by someone saying, Klaus, real soft.
Oh, is somebody having sex? Are there two players having sex?
Well, immediately she's like, whoa, I think that's Star Growlers player Klaus, the powerhouse Bauer.
Oh.
Klaus is a 9-foot tall Krampus with lots of muscles and fine gray fur and big horns that he has to have a special hockey helmet made for.
Oh. Well,
Uh-huh.
I see the no. Okay. Sorry, I need to look up a Krampus just so I can.
Yeah, go ahead and look up a Krampus, because I generally associate a Krampus with like evil Christmas, like spooky monster Santa, which I guess can be hockey adjacent.
Yeah, none of these are cute, is what I'll tell you.
Well, don't worry, because the Klaus is super hot.
Good. Excellent.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter. Then Holly hears another noise. Someone goes, "Oh fuck, Klaus." And she realizes it's coming from a second Growlers player, Frank the Flurry Murray.
Flurry Murray.
Yes, obviously, Frank is a Yeti whose tail and ass she recognizes as soon as she sees him. She's like, "That's Frank the Flurry Murray," right when she sees his ass and tail.
Look, I don't know is there any asses you think you could recognize?
Probably, but not of famous people.
No.
Like, there's not an athlete's butt cheeks that if I saw a picture of them, I'd be like, yeah, that's Robert Downey Jr. Like,
no.
I don't, but
I like how you were like an athlete and then you called out an actor.
I mean, or anyone, just anyone famous. This
okay.
is essentially, yeah, I don't know.
Okay, got it. Okay, so now she's got two players moaning in some capacity.
Yes. For more of a visual on Frank the Flurry Murray, it's a hilarious nickname. He is even taller than Klaus, and he's got like little tooth tusks up, kind of like an orc, which I guess is real cute. And so Klaus and Frank are hooking up in this locker room, and Holly is just locked in this locker and hearing it.
Do we have a context? Like, is there a game going on? Is it practice?
This I believe is post-practice.
Post-practice, or got it.
Pre-practice.
There is a practice. Got it.
I think it's practice adjacent.
Okay.
As these two are hooking up in the locker room, we learn a little bit more about like the team and personal dynamic between Klaus and Frank. So obviously they're teammates, but there's a lot of tension between them because they both play and compete for the same position on the team. Klaus lovers. Klaus is the veteran of the two of them, so he's like the guy who is in that position. And Frank
if I would choose between a Yeti and a Krampus of who is the more senior, I'm guessing the Krampus for sure.
The Krampus is more senior, although Frank taller. So he's more up and coming, but they're playing the same position. Additionally, it is very clear that their sexual relationship is a secret to the rest of the team, because the whole time they're hooking up, Klaus is very much like, the team is gone. Get on your knees.
Oh God. The team is gone. We should definitely hook up. Hey,
the team is gone. Let's go.
The team is gone. So therefore, we're in the clear. No one could possibly be in this locker room right now.
Time for oral sex, which is what happens. So Klaus and Frank have oral sex, and Holly for a little bit tries to not be turned on by this, and like pretty much fails and becomes increasingly more and more horny. And eventually she's like, well, I'm locked in here. I can't go anywhere, so I might as well get off while I'm here, because this is hot, which is generally non-consensual and uncool, but it's going to turn out fine, and nobody's going to care in this book.
Look, she signed herself up for something here, and it was going to go one of two ways, and I'm guessing because of the book we're reading, it's going to go one way specifically.
She's received a basket of lemons and is only trying to turn it into lemonade. You know what I mean?
As we all do in life.
As we all do. So she starts to masturbate, and then all of a sudden Klaus catches as he describes, delicious scent in the locker room, and pauses what he's doing for a second.
Of course, he can smell her arousal.
Yeah, but then he kind of brushes it off and then instructs Flurry. Frank goes by Flurry. I'll be calling him Flurry. Okay. Pretty much throughout the rest of the book.
Got it.
By his nickname. Everyone pretty much calls him that more than they call him by his first name. So he's like, I don't think I smelled anything. Flurry, keep doing what you're doing. Let's keep fucking. And so they do resume what they were doing, but at a different angle. And this gives Holly a full view of Klaus's penis for the first time. And don't worry, because we have a description this time.
Thank goodness.
Yes, but if you're not interested in the description, please skip ahead 30 maybe 45 seconds, depending on how long we ruminate on it.
Okay.
Okay, so if you stayed, here's what Holly tells us about Klaus. Quote, my mouth fell open as I stared. His cock was unlike anything I've ever seen. It was thick and dark crimson, a knot at the base, but his shaft, it moved. And we learn that Klaus has what Holly describes as a prehensile penis. So his penis is like a monkey tail, and he can like grab stuff with it.
Oh my
and,
God.
Yeah.
Oh my
move
God.
it around and twist it. And also apparently he is packing 10 inches. Her words, not mine.
You know what? At that point, I am scared of Klaus. At that point, it's frightening. This is a scary romance, is what I'm going to tell you.
Like, imagine the reveal. Like, you saw them getting at it from one angle, and that was one thing. But then imagine the reveal of rotating to see his penis, like you hadn't seen it before,
Okay.
and it's this.
But I'm also going to say, look, you know what? It could be enemies to lovers, but it also could be a theme of necessity. Because if Klaus has such a crazy large penis, he needs, and they're doing oral, he needs to have a very, very large mouth to put it in.
Yes, we'll see.
This is logical.
We'll see if that's why this is happening as the book continues.
I'm acting like I wrote the book and I'm trying to like source it all out. Like, this has to make sense.
Well, now that we know what Klaus's dick looks like, it's all too much for Holly. And she does finally get up in the locker. And unfortunately, lets out a little moan. And so Klaus and Fleury immediately find her, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, A, if they could kind of smell her before they super can now, and B, now she's made noise.
Yeah.
And so they like open up the locker and see her there and kind of block her from getting out. And she's just kind of like, I'm so sorry. I was just trying to overhear gossip so I could beat my ex-fiance.
I was just doing that super other ethical thing.
For a byline. She's very apologetic and like obviously embarrassed, but it's just like, I'm just trying to outdo my ex-fiance for a byline. Something we can all relate
to. As we all have done at some point. You know what? One of my favorite quotes is from one of our friends, and she said, you know, I lived this year out of spite and it was my best year yet.
There you go.
And I firmly believe in vengeance. I firmly believe in revenge. I believe. So I'm on Holly's side, fully on her side.
Do you have enemies? Take action immediately.
Do it.
Defeat them.
YOLO.
That's what we say on
Life is short.
Vengeance for all.
So they've got her trapped and they're like, okay, what you
She's like, here? Wow, I'm so sorry. How embarrassing. And instead of being mad, as you think they might be, Klaus is like, essentially is like, you smell good and you're naughty and you need to be bent over and spanked. Right?
Okay.
Not the reaction I was expecting, but thank you.
Yeah, I would get that from a Klaus. I'm gonna be honest. Mm-hmm. The little Dom.
Yeah,
Dom moment.
So the three of them make a deal, and in exchange for like not getting her in trouble or being mad at her, they're all gonna go on a secret date after tomorrow's practice.
A secret date. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they saw her and they're like, I'm committing to you. I think we should all go out.
Pretty much. They're like, oh, I see you've been jerking it in this locker. Getting my freak on with this guy. We won't get you in trouble this time, but only if you promise to go out with both of us on a secret date tomorrow after hockey practice.
Question: Are the two guys dating? Are they like, or have they done that yet? Like, it sounds like they're just hooking up.
At this point, we know that they're at least fucking.
Yeah, but like that's my thing. Is like, what if, you know, if Klaus recommended it? What if homeboy looks over at him and is like, you haven't even taken me on a date yet? Like, why are we now entering a third party and when we're not even communicating properly? This is not how a throuple works.
I have great news is that all will be made clear very soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So anyway, Holly and Klaus and Fleury make this deal. No getting in trouble in exchange for a date. And before they depart, they ask Holly for her name and phone number. Because LOL, they hadn't exchanged that yet.
Mm-hmm. I ask people out all the time without knowing anything about them.
Yeah, I wait, you know, till I'm very deep in conversation with someone who has caught me in scandalous business while doing their own scandalous business. And instead of trying to figure out who they are immediately, I ask them out and then go back around to it.
I mean, makes sense.
makes sense to me. From here we jump to Fleury's perspective. The book alternates between Holly's point of view and Fleury's and Klaus's.
Okay.
So we jump into Fleury's perspective, and it's the next day, and he's just absolutely struggling to focus at practice because he can't stop thinking A, about Klaus, and B, about their secret date with Holly. So we learned that Holly has been covering NMHL games for a while, and that he can't really explain why, but for some reason, Fleury is just absolutely captivated with her. Like, sometimes he messes up during games because he's looking at her too much when she's out in the crowd. Journalisming. Yeah, I know. It's kind of cute. He just kind of has a little crush on her. And so he's like super can't focus at practice because he's about to go on a fun secret date with Holly and with Klaus. Fleury and Klaus kind of butt heads during practice, and it's not particularly important other than it just kind of establishes that Klaus is the more veteran player on the team. He's kind of nearing retirement age, and Fleury's hoping to step into that role, but there's like a tension between them. We do also learn, and this is important, that Fleury and Klaus are mated to each other.
Oh, I love a good mating.
Yes, it's kind of a sort of
do
a
they know
sunshine.
It?
Yes, they do know it. They've been together.
So, but again, are they dating? They're just they like know they're mated. They're having sex, but they're not admitting feelings.
They're pretty deep in this mated relationship. It's like when you're mated with someone in this universe, it's like you are fated to be together.
Yeah.
So you develop a relationship with that person very quickly, and like you can decide to not be with each other, but you don't. The caveat to this relationship, and we'll get into it, is that the team does not know that they are mates. So they're
working through what they can work through.
Yes, they are teammates on the ice and hooking up in the locker room when the whole team leaves.
Got it.
So it's kind of a little secret. And so on the ice they like are teammates and butt heads and are annoyed with each other and stuff like that.
Okay.
Klaus has a really bad practice because he is also excited and nervous for the secret date with Holly. He's thinking maybe it could change the dynamic of their relationship. And maybe it would prevent Klaus and Fleury from being able to keep their relationship a secret, which they have been this whole time. So he hits a hockey puck really hard and hurts a goalie, but everything's fine. That's just like a fun plot thing that happens. Don't worry about it, though, because we are going to get off the ice and get ready for the secret date. Klaus and Fleury go back to the locker room. I assume they wait for the whole team to leave. And then they have some sub-dom dynamic sex in the locker room again. And also they discuss how they want to bring Holly in as a third mate and hope that she won't reject them, even though she just met them yesterday and they haven't gone on their date yet. They can tell by her smile that this is probably a match made in Monster Heaven.
Interesting that there can be three mates. I appreciated that. Yeah, that's typically not the case. So
no, open your heart. It's possible here.
Awesome. Okay.
Yes. So for context, again, the day has been hockey players show up at hockey, have tough time at hockey practice, go to the locker room, fuck. Immediately go get ready for a date, but do have to fuck first.
Get it out of the system.
Get out of the system. Or like, maybe monsters can be perpetually horny. I'm not quite sure. But it is getting steamy in the locker room, and there's a lot of dirty talk. So like this, I will say, there's a lot of smut in the book, and sometimes it's just one scene but extended over multiple chapters. And it's very spicy. So during this scene where we have some super fun sex in the locker room, we get a quote that says that Klaus's tail snapped back and forth, and I, who is Fleury, this is from Fleury's perspective, snatched it, making him whimper like the cock-hungry sub he was. I tugged and used it as leverage, moving faster and fucking him hard and deep. Even with the scent of gym equipment and our arousal filling the locker room, Holly's sweet aroma still lingered in the air. So from the day before,
lingered in the air 24 hours later.
From the day before.
That's the most ridiculous thing.
Later. Yeah, this is unreasonable. Say what? So the pair both come, and then it says this in the book. Within 30 minutes, they are cleaned up and leaving the stadium to meet Holly in the parking lot.
But men can. I hate that. But men can.
It doesn't take them that long to clean up after sex, which is Impressive. So they're good to go, and they see Holly waiting in the parking lot, and they're like, "There's our princess," which is a fascinating thing to say to someone who, just to review where we're at, you found locked in a locker in your locker room while you were hooking up, and when you found her, she was masturbating, and then you had a very full conversation about how instead of being mad at her, she can agree to go on a secret date with you. And then you asked her for her name and phone number after the whole conversation, and now she is your princess.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make sure we're all
Makes
on the same
sense
page.
to me. Look, they're mates. In my mind, mated. Done.
Mated. Klaus and Fleury take Holly straight to their house because this is a take her home date more than it's like a go out and get dinner date. Also, they're pretty private. You know, we've established that Klaus and Fleury haven't told the team that they're together, so they can't very well take Holly out on a date to like Chili's or Applebee's or something because they'll be seen. It would be awkward. But they have like a very cool remote in the snow, sexy like little house, little getaway house.
Oh, nice. Little cottage. They own it together.
It's cute. They have it together.
I think their relationship dynamics are fascinating, that you have all these undetermined elements, but yet you guys own a property together.
Yes. Keep that relationship a secret, but do share a house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they take Holly straight over to the house. There's like, I think kind of have established that it's fine if they're all just overtly sexual this whole time, because once you've masturbated to someone else hooking up with their mate, pretty much all the pretense is just waved away.
Yeah.
So the vibe of this date is sexual the whole time. They have hardly talked, but Klaus is like, my whole life has completely changed now that Holly is here. What will happen next? And also, he's kind of like, I gotta relax. It's our first date. Coming from anybody else,
two very different vibes.
Yeah, coming from anybody else, this would be absolute stalker behavior. But in this universe, because of the concept of mates, it's fine to just have all of these very extreme feelings very fast.
Yeah. No, I have suspended my disbelief. You know, I as you like to say, I'm here in the moment and I'm enjoying it. You said mates, and in my mind, that means anything is okay. In my mind, I'm like, that gives a free pass for their romance to be so rushed, whirlwind romance, and it's going to be super healthy, good, positive romance.
Yeah, there's a sort of Twilight-esque thing happening here, sort of like imprinting.
Yes,
mating is
exactly.
sort of like imprinting.
Yep,
if you will. So we also learned over the first part of the date where they do like chat a little bit that Klaus and Fleury don't make their relationship public, partly because they're private people, but also because they're on the same team and they don't want that to be an issue. Like they don't want to tell the team because they don't know if there's like league rules about dating your teammates.
Yeah.
So they just keep it to himself. And then with very little buildup at all, they all get turned on and they all start hooking up. And what is about to be a multi-chapter fuck marathon. I think that this goes.
Wait, can I just say when I get really turned on when I talk about the HR policies at my work too.
Yes, no, you have to understand the vibe of this date. So bizarre because it is with very little sensical transition, equal parts like, you're naughty and I want to spank you. How'd you become a journalist?
Oh my God. Emotional intimacy is important too. Physical intimacy.
So there's a lot of just like very positive vibes feeling that makes this all be fine in the context of this book.
All right, we're going hard and heavy now.
We're going hard and heavy. So Klaus has a very long tongue and he shoves it into Holly's mouth. And then in the middle of this like crazy makeout, which Holly's very into, she's like, whoa, crazy long tongue. It goes like way deep down in my throat. This is a lot, but I'm super into it. Klaus stops and is like, we're mates and we think you might also be our mate.
No chill. This man,
no
subtlety at all.
There's been like sexy passes at each other, a little bit of conversation about who they are as people, but not really. All of a sudden, Klaus takes and makes out with Holly with his big crazy tongue, and then immediately they're like, Klaus and I are mates, and we think that you might also be our mate, but no pressure.
What did she say?
Well, so they stop hooking up entirely and drink wine and have dinner and discuss the relationship dynamic.
That's great.
Yeah, so that's what happens next. We forget any of the like sexual tension and the crazy making out that that Klaus and Ollie just did in front of Flurry. We're going to put that on the back burner. We're going to go and have dinner, which I'm thrilled to tell you is made by a grumbly old vampire that had an obsession with cooking, who was just their friend. I didn't write out his name. I think it's
for them.
Yeah, I think his name's like Marco. It's just a friend of theirs who was a vampire who was obsessed with cooking.
Okay, so much for their relationship being oh so secret. I don't know.
It's their good friend, the grumbly old vampire who loves to cook.
I'm gonna blank that part out.
Maybe he's like a butler of some kind.
Well, all right. I'm not even gonna touch that. It feels like I feel like that one came out of left field. Of all the things we talked about,
I was thinking like a Batman, Bruce Wayne, and what's his name?
Vibe. Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. I still don't like it. I don't like it, is what I'll say.
Well, that's who made dinner, and for the record, he did a really good job.
Excellent. 5 out of 5.
Yeah. Klaus and Flurry more or less proposition her immediately. Dinner is served, and essentially, like, partway into some really good potatoes. They don't like actually say this, but their dynamic is very much like, we saw you from across the room and we really liked your vibe and we both want you. And so all they have done at this point is make out and eat dinner a little bit. And Holly has already let us know that this quote, just like this whole interaction, making out, abrupt stop, dinner is, quote, made sexy times with my ex look like a bucket of vanilla ice cream. Already. Ooh. We're already there.
Wow, girl, just wait. I have a feeling it's going to get a lot more sexy.
It is, and I know, because the next step is that Klaus and Flurry are going to ask Holly what her sexual preferences are, and she explains that she would love to try spanking. She's kind of into being manhandled. She would like to be blindfolded. She's maybe into wax play. We get a discussion about, boundaries and consent and some things Holly doesn't like. And honestly, it's pretty cool.
Nice. Look, we love consent. We love communication. We're all about that.
Yeah, and then before we can really start being sexy, we stop to have a quick conversation to ask other important questions like, do you have any family? Do you want kids? How'd you feel about staying the night? Tell me a little bit about yourself. The conversations aren't having it in an order that I would necessarily have them in on my secret date, but every relationship is different.
Look, again, positive communication. I'm happy we're getting answers out of each other, but it's very weird that we're doing like this almost edging of like, we're going to have sex and then like, we're going to have a deep conversation and then we're going to maybe have sex, but then we're going to have a deep conversation.
I imagine that they're trying their hardest to like make good first impressions and get to know this woman, but they're just all so turned on by each other and it's just such a sexy vibe that it's kind of hard to overcome. So they'll be like, I want to bend you over and spank you. Oh, do you have family?
Do you have family?
Like, what's your deal?
Jeez.
Yes. So this, and also in a consent is sexy win, after asking permission both to touch her and to undress her, which we love. Flurry and Klaus and Holly have their first romp together. So we get Holly's getting a massage, and then she gets massaged a little too hard, and she accidentally splashes hot chocolate on herself, which she has with her.
Where did the hot chocolate come from?
She has it. She's drinking it. She accidentally spills it directly on her boobs, which is so embarrassing. But don't worry.
This is giving Seduced by the Pumpkin Spice Latte.
A little bit. But you don't have to worry because Klaus is going to lick it off with his crazy tongue.
With his insane tongue, yeah.
The boys immediately start referring to her as their snow angel. And we get a good teamwork situation. So Flurry is going down on Holly, and then Klaus is rubbing her body and calling her princess and asking her to be a good girl. And Holly is giving Klaus head. And Holly is like, Heaven was getting the princess treatment by two hot hockey monsters. And she's having a great time.
Look. They've done everything I feel like they needed to do. All of the consent, all of the permissions, all the conversation. Now
the paperwork is filed.
Yeah. T's crossed, I's dotted.
And Holly is now their ice princess. So that's just the world that we're living in.
Is this like Christmas themed too? Like it feels kind of
not wintry. Really. It is wintry. Actually, this poses an interesting question that maybe we'll have to assess a different time, which is how this timeline works. But
Okay.
yes,
Because
wintry,
hockey
not
season
Christmas.
lasts forever, but with Krampus and
It does.
the Yeti, I was just thinking.
And
you know,
maybe it's a late fall, late fall.
maybe. Okay, sorry, keep going.
So once Holly has an orgasm and is fully taken care of, they take care of her again one more time before the trio form a fun, sexy train in which Flurry will be having sex with Holly while Klaus is having sex with Flurry, and then it's just kind of like a nice little train.
Yeah.
Sharing is caring. They all have sex. Everybody comes, and then I'm sorry for how I have to explain this, but Flurry uses his tongue to collect his product from inside Holly and then takes it and puts it in her mouth.
Oh, okay,
and
Mama Bird.
And then tells Holly to pass it along to Klaus like a weird, fun game of telephone.
I'm just thinking of like mama birds when they like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I believe it is the snowballing that we mentioned earlier.
Oh, that's what it is?
Mm-hmm, I believe that it is. But the great news is that our favorite thing is about to happen, because this is where we find out that Yeti cum has a flavor. Sarah, what do you suppose Yeti cum tastes like?
Snowflakes.
Peppermint, obviously. But
Oh
that's
my
like,
God, sorry.
I was the snowflake of flavors.
No, it is. It is. Okay.
Yeah, so great news. I don't think we ever hear about Klaus's cum and if it has a taste to it, but Flurry's does, and it's minty. So I know what you're thinking.
So is it like brushing your teeth?
Maybe it's like toothpaste, but thinner.
Sorry, almost threw up there for a second.
Anyway,
the texture just got me when you had to say that. Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, sorry, keep going.
Well, don't even worry about it, because now it's Klaus's turn to get treated, and he takes some time to spank Holly, which she loves, and he fingers her, which she also loves, and then Holly and Klaus go down on, or no, Holly and Flurry go down on Klaus from opposite ends.
Got it.
And then Klaus and Holly, there's so many dynamics.
No, this sounds like it's quite the jigsaw puzzle.
And then Holly and Klaus have sex while Holly is going down on Flurry.
Okay, so Eiffel Towering maybe a little bit?
I feel like I should have made a board with pictures and red lines.
You should have. Little cork board behind you. It's like
simply too much to direct. Know that there's a lot of fair exchange, and everyone's having a very good time.
Excellent.
So now at this point, everybody has come at least once, some people more than once. Okay. And this, which again was like a 3-chapter sex romp, is finally over. And the trio decided that they're going to drink some water. They're going to take a shower. Yes, you should. They should.
Hydrate, clean up.
Hydrate. Take a shower. And then they are going to snuggle up for hot chocolate and a movie, which sounds fun. And also, they drink so much hot chocolate.
I'm worried. If anybody is like me with any dairy products, I can only do so much. And I love hot chocolate. So
maybe it is that they, because Holly spilled it all over her boobs. Maybe they're just like, we saw that you didn't get to drink your hot chocolate before because it got spilled all over your boobs. So we'll make you some more to replace it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
reasonable.
All in all, though, it sounds like a lot of fun. And the next morning, they're going to have a delicious breakfast and explain to Holly that they love to take care of her. And everyone's just having a really great time.
Excellent.
Yep. The next day, they're having their breakfast, enjoying each other's company. And they're like, do you have any plans later this day? And Holly's like, no, I don't have any plans. They're like, cool. Do you want to meet up again after practice again? And she's like, yeah, I've got literally nothing else going on. So the guys drop her off at her car, and we get the tiniest scooch of plot that happens next. So they're like, bye, Holly.
Did somebody spot them from the team?
You're about to find out.
Okay.
You're about to find out.
Tell me.
They're like, bye, Holly. Kisses. See you later. And Holly's in her car, and she's waiting for the windows to defrost. So yeah, that to answer your question, it's like cold. It's like wintry.
Yeah.
I do believe there is mention of there being like a bad winter storm the night that she stays over, and they have their first big, long, sexy romp. And then it's cleared up the next morning so they can take her to her car.
Okay.
So it's cold outside. But Holly is sitting in her car, just waiting for the windows to defog and de-ice. And she's talking about how she wishes she could sleep with her hockey monsters in the locker room, but reminds herself that, quote, that wasn't a risk I was willing to take. Not yet, at least. I'd spent so much time establishing myself in a male-dominated career, and there was a strict no dating the hockey players rule. A scandal like that would jeopardize everything.
Oh my gosh, woman, you've become the scandal. You've become the scandal you were looking for.
Well, just like that.
Is it her ex-fiance saw them mooching and is going to report him? Or...
Just as Holly thinks, a scandal of being a journalist who broke the well-known rule, no dating the hockey players, would be the worst thing that could happen to any of us. A scandal very similar to that unfolds as Holly notices a strange work email on her phone and opens it to find a super threatening and extortion-laced message.
Oh.
It is a little intense, so I'm not going to include all the words, but all you need to know is that somebody used a telephoto lens to take photos of Holly and her men the night prior, and like literally everything they did in every position they did it was photographed. And yes, at the center of the email is like, I'll release these if you don't give me $150,000. Give me $150,000 and leave it under the growly growler statue. Then it says in the book the night before the next game, but it actually happens before the next game, which is like the following night.
Okay, so maybe she just didn't get it at the right time, maybe.
Don't worry about it. All you need to know is whoever took these pictures will release them if Holly doesn't give this person $150,000 left, presumably, I guess, in cash in a duffel bag, or perhaps in check in a small envelope. Either way, it better be underneath the growly growler statue.
Heard. We will be at the growly growler statue when we need to be. I
wish there was a description of what that could possibly look like, but alas, there is not.
Shucks. Missed opportunity.
Yeah, bummer. So, this is horrifying. What to do? Holly is shaken, but honestly, at this point, she's like, I'm sure that Klaus and Fleury and I are going to get through it together. So I bet it's going to be okay.
I'm sure my relationship of 72 hours is going to manage getting through whatever hardship this is.
Yeah, I just know the three of us could weather any storm.
Yeah.
Because one storm did technically happen.
And we weathered that.
24 hours that we've encountered each other, which is the entire extent of our relationship.
Yes.
At this point.
I have faith. I'm fully on Holly's side at this point.
Yeah. And honestly, for a little bit, we can forget about it because Klaus and Fleury have a great practice. And they're already thinking about how Holly should be their mate. And maybe they'll go public with their relationship. And then maybe Klaus will retire and just get to focus on the relationship, the three of them. And they're like fantasizing about how great their three-mate relationship with Holly is going to be. And get her a coffee after practice. They text her. They're like, we're getting coffee. Do you want something? And she's like, yes, I want a coffee. And at that time, she does not disclose the very threatening extortion email she's received, but she does place her coffee order in text.
Oh, well, we were doing so well with communication in this relationship. Now we're keeping secrets.
It's not going to be too secret. She just was like, let's get coffee first. And then I'm going to tell them about this heinous thing that has happened. Mm-hmm. So everybody gets a coffee. And then Holly explains the email she's received and shows it to them. And the guys are like seething mad and like, we're going to find this guy.
Ooh, alpha male
material.
Yeah,
we're not going to let him figure this out. They're just, the three of them are resolute in handling the stalker and keeping the throuple together and finding out who's behind these pictures.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, so there was nothing to worry about, really. The three of them will
weather the storm
together.
Yeah.
In the meantime, they go back to the house and secure the perimeter and like close all the blinds and like look for, I don't know, evidence of a person being there. There's a forest around the perimeter of the house. Like, go into the forest, see if the forest is safe. And Fleury does find a piece of red nylon and determines that somebody must have sent up a tent in the forest outside the house to take
How
photos.
odd.
Despite it must
in the middle of a storm, having a tent.
They do specify that it is a really sturdy tent to have weathered the storm so that they.
I'm so glad we acknowledged that at least.
Yeah, the authors were like, we know you're concerned about the durability of a tent during a winter storm. We've got you covered. This is sturdy red nylon.
Jeez.
So that's, they have a general idea of what they think has happened. It seems like somebody camped out to take pictures. And with this figured out, they all decide to unwind and strip and get in a hot tub and start hooking up.
When I'm stressed from blackmail, what I do is immediately hook up with my throuple of 72 hours.
Look, we secured the perimeter and everything's safe and we can proceed.
Secure the perimeter. Who are these? Are they Secret Service? Who are they that they're securing the perimeter?
A Yeti and a Krampus. Okay. And they did not send any stalkers in the forest. So
I forgot that they have great senses because he could sense or smell that very first time.
Smell arousal.
Okay.
So they're like, yeah, let's get in the hot tub. And they get in the hot tub. And they're like, don't quite fully start hooking up, but everybody's kind of feeling each other out. And then in the middle of this, Klaus and Flurry reveal to Holly that they want to officially mate her. They're like, we feel like you might be our mate and we are interested in mating you. In fact, it's getting a little hot and heavy, and one of the two men almost bites her, and they're like, not in like a bad way, but like he just kind of is trying really hard not to just sink his teeth into her, and she's like, oh no, what's going on? And he's like, he wants to mate you. We would like to mate you. We think you're a mate. Sarah, if you were writing a monster romance and had to make up a monster mating ritual, what would it be?
Well, it's going to be primal, but it's also going to have flower crowns for sure involved. Maybe some hand tying, like with a sash or something really old school.
Sure.
I don't know. I have no clue.
Possibly under a full moon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, this one we learned there's like a very natural occurring process that, like, when you find a mate, it's not something you can kind of force. It just kind of happens naturally. But because consent is so sexy, you can opt out. You can like reject a mate if you want to.
Yes.
But you tend to not do it. But you find someone who's fated with you, and you kind of will start to develop a relationship with them really fast. If you decide you want to be mated officially, when it's monsters, they bite each other. But if it's a monster and a human, the monster just bites the human. And at first, it hurts a little bit, but then you feel, quote, pleasure unlike anything else.
Sounds like vampires. Thank you.
Kind of. Yeah, it doesn't describe any transformation taking place.
No, but typically, like, they say that a vampire bite like hurts at first, but then is pleasurable, right?
Sure. Sexy. So yeah, that's what they.
So did they bite her? They bite her?
Well, so Holly's like, that sounds fucking awesome. I'm in there, like swimwear. Let's mate. Let's do the biting. I'm so into it. The guys are like really nervous that she's gonna reject them, and she's like, oh my gosh, you thought I would say no? Let's do it. As I stated earlier, I don't even have family to worry about.
We love humbling men.
So they're like, yeah, metaphorical high five. Let's have sex. So we're in for another big sexy time inside. They're like, let's get out of this hot tub, even though we secured the perimeter and it's totally safe. Let's get back inside and get this thing going. So this time around, we're going for double penetration and also for the mating ritual.
Okay.
And they're not required for each other, but this is just like kind of what we've decided.
Yeah. Yep.
So after kind of all this fun, build up in the hot tub that then was interrupted by a very serious conversation about being partners forever, we're back in for a sexy time, and there's lots of making out and lots of touching each other's bodies. And at one point, Holly is she's like taken aback a little bit, but she's happy. So she's trying to explain to Flurry and Klaus that like she's never experienced anything like this. And Klaus is like, you've never been with someone who wants to die between your thighs? I'm going to be feasting on your cunt once we fill you.
You know what? Don't hold back. Tell me how you really feel.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, well, here we go.
Yeah.
So that
again, I want to reiterate that I read 3 dark romances in the last 3 days. So I'm in a headspace where nothing could surprise me.
That's true. Sarah's like, of course they said that.
Of course. That's reasonable. Anyway, keep going.
Both the Krampus and the Yeti enter her, and she loves it. It is difficult because their peens are huge. We don't really get a description of Flurry's penis.
Okay.
But it's big. And it was like not necessarily easy for them to achieve double penetration.
I can imagine, given that these are like 1,000-foot men and have monkey tail.
I think
penises.
At or over 9 feet tall.
Yeah.
But it works out great. So they both bite her, one on each shoulder, and she immediately comes, first of all, and then the like mate connection solidifies, and everybody's mated and everyone's coming all together, and it's like very beautiful big group orgasm.
Nice.
Which is wonderful. And everybody is happy and satisfied. And all of this is immediately ruined for me personally with the following line, which is, quote, "The last 2 days had been crazy, an absolute whirlwind, but everything about it felt right. Because just to remind you, 2 days have passed."
Again. I know that you're not used to reading fantasy romances,
True,
but
I'm not.
Literally, you give me the word mate, and it's like a hall pass to do whatever. You know, like it's you true. Tell me mate, and I'm like, yes, anything makes sense. Everything makes sense. Don't question anything.
I'm so glad because this will make sense too. Flurry declares his love for Holly.
Great, and as he should. He's a little late, honestly, in my mind.
Yeah, and she loves him too, and she loves Klaus, and they all
has Klaus said
it. Yeah, they all love each other.
Okay, so they all just love each other.
Everyone, they like exchange the "I love yous" across each other, so everyone's covered.
Got it.
And so now they're gonna eat Holly out while Flurry has sex with Klaus,
as he should.
Because apparently monsters never get tired and can have repeat sex forever and ever.
The turnaround is really incrable with this group.
Almost no recovery time. And Holly is living her best life. She's like, I felt every insecurity I'd ever had completely melted away. The way they touched me, loved me, devoured me. It made me feel like I was truly their queen. And with even more sexy time out of the way, we close and need to hastily kind of wrap up our plot.
Yes, because there is blackmail. We have not forgotten.
Correct. The plan is just to like take care of the blackmail. It's simple. They say they're gonna, quote, find out who they are, intimidate them until they saw how stupid it was to blackmail 2 monsters and their mate, and then it'll be fine. So they go to the arena to meet this man under the sculpture as described, and they see like what they would describe as a pathetic wisp of a man who has appeared at the statue to collect the blackmail money. So they watch him, and there's like I don't remember it saying specifically that there is a duffel bag there, but the implication is that there's a duffel bag under the statue outside the arena that has the money in it. And so this guy goes up and like takes the duffel bag, and oops, instead of having money in it, it's full of jock straps. And oops, oh no, there are suddenly 2 big angry monsters right behind this tiny man. And Klaus and Flurry strong arm this guy and insult this guy. And you'll never guess who this guy is.
It's the ex-fiance.
It's absolutely Mike, no last name, Holly's ex-fiance. And Klaus grabs Mike by the balls and tells him that he promises not to rip his dick off and shove it down his throat as long as Mike deletes all the photos and quits his job and takes a trip far away and never comes back.
Agreed. I'm with them.
Yeah. Mike responds by peeing his pants and promising to leave. And the problem is solved.
That's embarrassing for you, Mike.
Yeah, well, don't worry, because he's about to leave the country and never come back.
Great. Okay. I'm guessing that if I were to guess the ending of this book, it's that there's one more big game.
Well, we know this is right before a game. Of course, this is right before a game.
But you're acting as if this is maybe the end. But I'm like, no, there has to be more. I'm guessing there's more, and they come out publicly.
Well, let's find out. Okay. Now that Mike has peed his pants and vowed to run away and never come back and delete all the photos, Flori and Klaus are ready to play hockey. But first, they do need to talk to their coach. So they like walk into the arena, and they walk up to the coach's office, and they're having a conversation about like, this is the right thing to do. We'll maybe tell coach, I love you, whatever. And then they start making out in front of coach's office before they like knock. And then coach just opens the door and catches them kissing outside his office.
That's one way to come out.
Yeah.
That's one way to cross that off your list.
I'm not sure what I expected the coach's reaction to be, but what the coach's reaction is come on in, lovebirds. I take it you're mates.
Yep.
Yeah. And the guys are pretty much like, oh, how'd you know? And coach
how'd you know?
Coach is like, coach is not like, because you're making out with each other in front of my office. And instead is like, this is a team of monsters, and you've literally been fucking in the locker room and getting horny around each other, and everyone can smell it.
How do you not think of that?
They're all
if
monsters.
You could smell other people, then why would you think they couldn't smell you, though?
Right. And apparently Klaus and Flori just didn't notice that they were emitting these smells because they're scent blind to each other. And they also forgot that monsters, I guess, inherently can smell arousal. They just forgot. They were like, that's just a thing we can do, not the whole monster team. So no one is surprised. The point of this scene is to establish, one, that it's completely fine for Klaus and Flori to be mates on the same team, and two, it is also completely fine if they are mated to a journalist.
Okay. All right.
Two things we were concerned about, but fortunately there are no rules in the Monster Hockey League that prevent you from doing either of these things.
Excellent.
So thank God, Flori and Klaus can now help the Growlers win the game. And the Growlers win the game. It's a great game, and they win. That's pretty much all you need to know about it. The more important thing that happens is that they've decided to have a post-game press conference in which they are going to come out as a couple and also introduce Holly as being their mate, and also announce that Klaus is retiring. And they have told Holly, I think, none of these things in advance.
Wow, that's a big news day, though, for the reporters at that press conference.
It's a huge... Bombs are dropping left and right on these reporters. And it's breaking news after breaking news. And also, I can't emphasize this enough, they have decided to share all of this with the press and Holly, who will be there, and they have not told her.
Communication was going so well.
So she's in the audience, and they're like, Klaus is like, I'm retiring. I'm going to spend time with my mates. And they're like, mates, you have more than one. He's like, yeah, I've got two. And Flori's like, I'm one of them. And they're like, and the other one's Holly. Come on up here, Holly. And
come on up, Holly.
Bring her
You're
on
the next
stage.
Contestant on The Price is Right.
And she's like, that's so crazy that all of these things have been revealed all at once. But I'm so happy because I love my two mates. And I can't believe he's going to retire. And in the background, there is some talk about how they're like seeing each other during this press conference, getting turned on. There's like never no horny.
Of course.
But the three of them say that they're looking forward to spending their time together as mates, and that they leave the press conference together, arm in arm in arm, and they're eager to go home and have sex, and they're fantasizing about maybe like joking about how they are excited to be like, we're gonna breed you someday, you're gonna love it, it's so fun. I think at the press conference they get asked if this is all happening so fast because Holly's pregnant, and they're like, no, it's because we're mates. It's
reasonable.
Just like it's a monster thing. We close our book proper, but transition into an epilogue, and now I have one final content warning to deliver, which I did say I would do earlier in the podcast, and it's happening now, and it is that this book contains a pregnancy epilogue.
Wonderful. I mean,
fast forward.
Okay.
It is Christmas Eve.
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying that the timeline is now questionable because now it's Christmas Eve.
So what I've gathered in the time I've spent thinking about it is that it is the fall when the book is happening.
Or it could be a year later. Who knows?
We'll find out.
Okay. Just go.
Anyway, let's fast forward. It's currently Christmas Eve and our favorite throuple, excuse me. There's three of them. Our favorite throuple are drinking hot chocolate again.
Mm-hmm.
And also opening presents. I don't come from a family that opens presents on Christmas Eve. We open them on Christmas. I don't know about you, Sarah.
We do some with the extended family on Christmas Eve and then immediate family Christmas Day.
Well, these three are doing it all on Christmas Eve. And here's what we learn. In the months, first of all, we learned that months have passed.
Okay.
So I assume that the events of this book start in the fall. Holly probably gets pregnant when they mate.
Okay.
And this is now that Christmas Eve.
Got it. Heard.
Is my guess.
Yes.
It's not like blatantly laid out, but it is like months have passed. So in the months that have passed, Mike, with no last name, has quit journalism and moved across the country.
Yeah,
Great.
as he should.
See you later. Holly now lives with Klaus and Florrie. She moves out of her apartment and moves into their cool house.
Yep.
Holly now has a new job as the Growlers' official team photographer. I don't know how that's less problematic than being a journalist who covers a team. But it's fine.
The conflict of interest comes when you're reporting on somebody, really. And so I see it as less of an issue now. I'm going to be honest.
She's kind of like, honestly, journalism, who needs it? I'm here to take pictures of my super hot double mates who are on the same team, at least for this one season. And then the plan is just to kind of travel around while Florrie keeps playing.
That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah. So anyway, that's where they're at in life so far. And it's Christmas Eve. So they're all opening gifts that they got for each, like various, one of them have gotten for the various other ones of them. And I listed out the gifts because it's fun. Leather floggers, leather harnesses, leather handcuffs, a wooden paddle that says naughty, some nice horn oil that they're excited to rub on Klaus's horns. There's a butt plug. There's rope. There's shibari thorns. I don't even know what that is. But they have them. There's several vibrators, some of which are remote controlled. They give Holly a framed hockey puck that says Monster Pucker on it.
That's actually funny. I like that.
And she also thinks it's very funny. And then they also are going to give her like their jerseys because they have a fantasy about having sex with her while she wears their jerseys.
Nice.
And then there's one last gift that Holly has. It's a surprise. And she presents Florrie Klaus with baseball caps. And the baseball caps say hockey dads on them.
Okay.
And they're like
baseball caps? They don't play baseball.
It's just the kind of hat. I don't know.
I don't like that. No.
Well,
all right. That's where I'm heading out. All right.
Well, they get hats that say hockey dads. And they're like, oh my God, we're going to be dads. And like, surprise, Holly got bread. And everyone is so happy.
Happy for them. Again, Holly, questioning, you could have done so many things to do with hockey and you chose a baseball cap. Annoying. Well, forget that there are you could have done a baby hockey jersey or perhaps a hockey puck or little ice skates.
Yeah, but this is fine too. Okay, and everybody's Holly. Super happy. And Holly is like, quote, I know it's soon, but everyone has a different timeline. And this feels right, I think. And we close with everything perfect. And Holly gets her happy ending in the arms of her monster mates. And that is the end of our book.
That was great. I only had one complaint, but you know, that's where I stand.
Yes. Well, let's get into how we feel about it. And I'm going to make you do the math again because you know how I don't like to do that.
You would.
I would, and I will. This is diverse in that it has lots of monsters. I didn't really go into it, but there are more monsters beyond Yetis.
I'm sure there are.
Krampuses. I think there's some sort of, I want to say troll. It's been a while since I've done my solid read through. I did a refresher today when I was doing my research, but it is communicated that there are lots of different monsters and also humans. Holly, I don't think I ever said this, but Holly is a human.
I think you established that well early on.
Yeah. Human. So that's our diversity.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like we can really cover the diversity page, but
body diversity. And we like that.
Oh, we do love that. And I mean, men and women. So male, female,
3-person relationships
and throuple. We've committed throuple. Yeah. Okay. We're doing plot next.
Yes.
I'm doing 3. That was I mean, the plot was like 5 seconds, but
the plot was 5 seconds. I gave it a 4 because I liked the various elements, even though like it. Now that it was hard to follow, you could tell that it wasn't fully fleshed out because it's not 100% what we were here for. It especially also made me laugh every time we talked about Mike and that Mike didn't have a last name. I also don't know that Holly had a. Did Holly have a last name? It's not important, but the hockey players do.
yeah.
But I gave it a 4 because I thought there was a lot of intrigue and mystery, even though it was in brief snippets throughout our book.
Again, you read it. I didn't.
I did.
So Smut, I'm gonna give it a 5. That was a lot.
5.
A lot of kinks.
As the reader, I'm going to tell you that there is a lot of kink representation. There's a ton of dirty talk. I didn't include the quotes. I was blushing about it. But there's a lot if you're into that kind of stuff. A lot of different things represented in terms of like sexual interests, and also a lot of very clear communication and consent happening like the whole time.
No, we love that.
Great.
The next is the cover, which I have opened up.
Yes. What does it look like?
It is very purple. It's like got a purple, almost like if they gradient a picture of ice and then made it purple. As the background, there's like some purple ribbon, and then there's a circle with some horns in the background of Monster Pucker, a hockey monster romance, and then some weird photo. I'm guessing those are supposed to be like Polaroids in the bottom right.
They kind of look like blank Polaroids.
There's
not pictures on them.
That have Clio Evans and Ashley Bennett on it. I think it's kind of cute. I think it's so there's this whole conversation. I think it's important to know that there's this whole conversation about having discreet romance covers, and because some people like the ripped guy on the front holding the girl, or whatever. But some people want it to be more discreet. I think with a title like Monster Pucker, you really can't be as discreet. But this was as discreet as you can make it, and I'm going to give it a 3. What are you giving it?
Fair. I gave it a 2 because I really want it. My imagination is getting tired, so it helps me to have a visual representation of the characters in the book. And so if there were a way to have a visual representation of those characters, it would have been good for me. But it's cute. And if you're looking for something that's a discreet cover, it's as discreet as a book called Monster Pucker could be. So,
well, that ends us both at 73%. Say Smut moments, having a baseball cap that you give your hockey boyfriend. Dumb.
Not announcing your hockey pregnancy with skates or pucks or tiny hockey jerseys or sticks or anything.
But the sex related Say Smut moment would be the snowballing.
Oh yeah,
that was a little wild.
That was a new concept. I was intrigued by Klaus's prehensile penis.
Yeah, nodding.
Yeah, there's a lot of form and function happening in this book.
That's
thankfully
true.
A description, because we have always asked for it.
We always need a description of the penis. Thank you. Well, that was wonderful. Thank you for doing that for us today. I'm thinking we will do something kind of TikTok famous next week. So come back if you want maybe a more, I don't want to say normal romance. I don't want to say normal because
how dare you say that my Yeti Krampus human hockey threesome romance is not normal.
Well, it's normal for somebody. Anyway, you can find us if you so choose on TikTok or Instagram at Say Smut Podcast. Additionally, we'd love to hear your book recommendations. Send those our way via email at saysmutpodcast@gmail.com. Hey, by the way, we're going to be running some giveaways. Yeah. So go on to our Instagram and TikTok for those pieces of information and look out for those. Also, we don't want to tell you what to do, but we'd love it if you popped us a review or rating on the podcast platform of your choosing.
Yeah, it's our kink when you do that.
That's our kink at the end of the day. But look, puck it up, have some fun. And stay smutty.
Yeah, please stay smutty. Don't get yourself stuck in any lockers. Practice ethical journalism and ask before you mate somebody.
Sounds fair to me.
Yeah. See you later.
Bye.